Hey, Mike here. Thanks for checking out my video. I'm trying something new and I hope you like it. I have been telling rhino stories for the past few weeks to support my Rhino Conservation Challenge, raising funds for Global Conservation Force. Please click the link, make a donation. But enough of my stories. I invited a guest onto this video for you to listen to. One of my friends, Jungle Jordan. He is an amazing person. He's all over social media at Jungle Jordan. Check him out. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. But he has a story about working with rhinos at the Woodland Park Zoo years back, educating people about them. So I hope you enjoy. If you do like this interview style of videos, I hope to do more in the future. So please let me know if that's something you are interested in. But in the meantime, please listen. Here is Jungle Jordan. Jungle Jordan, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. How's it going?
Oh, it's going good. I've been super busy. I've been working, raising the family, and trying to save rhinos in the wild, and that takes a lot of time.
I mean, and everyone appreciates what you're trying to do with the rhinos. Especially me. I love everything that people like you are doing for conservation.
Yeah. So, as I said previously, I'm starting something new. You're my guinea pig, so I'm happy to have you on and tell a little story that you have about some working with rhinos and doing a little education work back in the day.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have worked. I don't have the most experience working with rhinos, but I have had the pleasure of working with two greater one-horn rhinos, and one of my prized feelings was when I got to do the daily talk, the daily scheduled program for the rhinos, and we would bring them into the area we call the rhino pool, and we had this little like amphitheater seating, and I would just talk forever, and they were they were only supposed to be like 10 or 15 minutes of talking, and I would just go off and just go for like 30, 40 minutes. I actually was out there an hour once, and my coworker had to come and grab me because look, if people are going to sit there and listen, I'm going to keep talking. Like, people really, enjoy hearing about rhinos, and I enjoy talking about the conservational efforts for rhinos and what they mean in the wild. And I've had many encounters. There was actually a group of kids once. They came. It was during summertime, and they would come and listen, and I didn't know they were part of like a zoo. They were in the zoo. What do you call it when they're? It's like, it's not daycare, obviously, but it's like a summer program,
It's like a
and they
zoo
come
camp.
back. It's zoo camp. There you go. So they were zoo campers, and I didn't really know that until later. But I learned they were in zoo camp because the first time they listened, they were asking a bunch of different awesome, interesting questions, and questions that were stumping the grown adults that were in the theater area, and even me. I was like, oh, that's a very intelligent question. That's a little more advanced than I was expecting to be talking about it here. And so with that, I feel like I have to, I gauge the audience, right? And I talk to them, in ways I think they'd understand. So those questions were definitely above the level of their average visitor. And they were like 10 years old. And so I talked to them, had a great talk, and then, I asked them a question like, hey, who all here wants to be a zookeeper? And I swear it was like maybe 10 out of the 12 kids raised their hand. And then the other two, I said, what about you two? Why don't you guys want to be zookeepers? They said, well, we like animals. We just don't want to be a zookeeper. We want to be, there was one kid that said, yeah, I want to go study animals in the wild. I want to be a wildlife biologist. And the other said they wanted to be, do something similar. And I was like, so you guys really love animals. And so that was the first day, all that in one day. That was like a 45-minute talk. Then the next day, they arrived. The same, like the very next day, they came back. And this was a trend. They came back every day that I was working to give a talk. And so it's hard to come up with new material about rhinos because I mean, I managed it, but it worked. There was, and from what I heard from my coworkers, if I wasn't there, and the coworker was going to do the talk. The kids asked where I was, and the keeper said, "Oh, he's off." They said, "Oh, okay," and just left. Didn't even listen to their talk, and I felt so horrible. I was like, I won't say his name, but he was like, "Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I was just confused why they just walked away." I was like, "Oh, okay." I don't know. I think it's just the connection that I built with the group. You know, because it was like an ongoing thing that I was giving them homework. I was giving them things to talk about, to study, and I think they just wanted to, connect me with all their answers and all their new questions, and that was one of my most amazing experiences with the rhino. And it wasn't even with rhinos. The rhinos were in the background. This was a people talking to people about rhinos. It was awesome.
That's fantastic. So how long did this go on for, the same group of kids?
Oh, goodness. Let's see here. Let's see. So that started in whenever summer camp started. So it was like late June or something. Like it was close to my birthday. And then it ended probably mid-July. So a few weeks. It lasted probably a full month. They were coming back every day that I was there. And I was impressed.
First of all, going way past your time limit, talking about animals, I can totally relate, because if it's an animal I'm passionate about, I can keep going. And sometimes, I have guests, at my zoo, that feel bad about holding me up. I'm like, look, either I'm talking to you about something I'm passionate about, or I'm in the back cleaning up animal dung all day. So I'd rather be out here with you. So
honestly, I mean, we also were doing we had the rhino feeding encounter, and that was actually a timed thing. And so that was an hour block, and we had multiple people coming up one at a time. And with the rhino encounter, it was different than our giraffe encounter. With the rhino one, you could spend one-on-one time for about 5 to 8 minutes with like one small group, like maybe like 2 or 3 people. With the rhinos, just you, the rhinos, and 2 people. That was a little bit different than the giraffe encounter, where that one was on a whole big platform with like 15 people came up there all at once, and you didn't get to give the individual attention, I feel like. And that's why I think the rhinos had a special place in my heart, because I got to share them with others on a very personal level.
I can totally relate. That's now, when you were that age, I know I couldn't go to the zoo every day, but anytime I go to the zoo, there was that one particular exhibit or species of animals that you had to check out. It was a can't miss. When I was a kid, I grew up in Paso Robles, California, and our closest zoo was the Charles Paddock Zoo in Atascadero. It was a small little 5-acre zoo. So they didn't have a lot of animals, but I think when I was a kid, my go-to was like the spider monkeys, because they were always active and always doing something. Which I know it's funny that I'm a Hoofstock guy now. I was so fascinated by
right.
But I remember that being
it's like left field.
Hey, I have an enthusiasm for all species, and those have changed over my life. But for you, was there that particular species you were drawn to?
I was always fascinated with river otters. Those are the ones growing up that I feel like I had to visit, because I used to always go to Woodland Park Zoo. That was like my home zoo. That's where I grew up. That's where I started volunteering at age 11. So I was there for a long time. But that they were the absolute ones I had to see. And I honestly feel like the savanna animals also, so the hippos, the giraffe, I had to see them. But I would say otters brought me the most enjoyment, just sitting there watching them swim back and forth. I mean, I loved everything though. I mean, everything that I could get get the chance to see. I think, something that was really a really big hit in the 90s was the Woodland Park Zoo night exhibit. So it was the day and night exhibit. So the day exhibit had the reptiles, and the night exhibit had it was the reverse schedule. So it was dark in there and all the animals were active. And that was the thing. That was the go-to that they had. I think at the time, there might've been the ocelot in there at the time, maybe the jaguar. No, I think it was an ocelot for sure. And then they had vampire bats in there. They had some species of porcupine, I feel like, as well. There was just cool animals in there. They had these fish that were the blind cave fish.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, oh I missed that area. It's sadly that's the area that caught fire. It was closed already, but it caught fire when they were trying to re establish it and refurbish it and open it back up. So that was very sad
Yeah, I
seeing
never
it go.
saw that, but that sounds like just a whole new world you get to experience when you're at the zoo, just the nighttime life of these animals.
Everyone loved it. Like it was a huge hit, and people were devastated when it caught fire, and it was sad.
Well, Jordan, if I was visiting your zoo, I'd come hear you talk every day too. So
Yeah,
I I can relate to those kids. I do that now.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, thank you.
push your mind. See how much rhino knowledge you can dish out every day.
I don't have that much. Like I mean, okay, I will say I probably know more than I'm leading myself on to believe. Like because it's somehow I'm sure you know this. Like when you talk about animals, sometimes these answers you would think you don't really remember. It just comes out of nowhere, it just pops up out of your head. Like you're not making things up. Like you actually at one point knew these things. But if you're not practicing these facts, I feel like they just disappear as you age. And somehow, you know, recalling some of these memories is pretty awesome. But there is there's far more rhino experts out there.
There are
I am no rhino expert.
kids, man. They ask the tough questions. It's so much easier to give a talk to a group of adults because they're just where do they come from? What do they eat? How fast can they run? But kids, man, they'll pump out questions like, how many teeth do they have? I'm like,
I'm
oh,
like, oh goodness.
that's a good
I
question.
actually used to know that. No, I knew that. See, I knew that. That was something that I that was another thing. I feel like as an animal presenter, when you're talking about a certain animal, you definitely are doing the research before you start talking about it, right? Like, but since I haven't given a rhino talk in I don't know how long, probably over a year and a half now, I don't remember. Maybe I don't know, 28. I don't know. Like I don't remember. I don't remember. That's a good question. Let's ask Siri. How many teeth do rhinos have? Let's see if she actually knows.
Here's what I found from Diffin.com. Rhinos have 24 to 34 teeth, mostly premolars and molars used for grinding.
Did you
Thank you,
hear that?
Siri. Couldn't do the show without you.
Siri's amazing. She's amazing. Siri, that's impressive stuff, actually. So yeah, 24 to 34. I knew
Keep your eye
28
out on
sounded
her.
some.
She'll take your job if you're not careful.
Honestly, yeah, the whole world's gonna get taken over by Siris
Oh,
and everything and all the other robotic things.
I think I'm safe until they learn how to use a rake and shovel together. I think my job.
There we go. There we go.
So,
Sorry.
all right, Mr. Jungle Jordan, thank you for hanging out with me and telling your story.
Thank you for having me. I love telling all the stories. I'm a little bit long-winded sometimes, but I like stories.
That's fine. If people are interested in hearing this, maybe I'll drag you back on in the future to tell another story about something else.
Drag me back on, forced me to do it.
Oh, it's so hard to get Jungle
I'm
Jordan in
kicking and
front of a
screaming.
camera.
Oh, cameras. Oh man.
Look, I look forward to seeing you again in face to face. Hopefully, that will happen sometime soon.
Always. Hopefully soon.
And that was my interview or chat with Jungle Jordan. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more of these, I got lots of friends with lots of cool animal stories to tell that I can bring in and make videos with. So if that's something you want to hear, let me know. I'll continue doing this past the deadline for the Rhino Conservation Challenge. Once again, that deadline is October 31st. Please click the link and make a donation. Let's save rhinos together. You're weird.
Yeah.